excited to have with us Natalie Morris, senior lifestyle writer at the Metro UK. A highly accomplished journalist, Natalie has also contributed to the likes of The Independent, The Telegraph, Digital Spy, and a personal favourite of mine, Galdem magazine, which is an amazing online and print publication committed to sharing perspectives from women and non-binary people of colour. So thank you, Natalie, for being here today.
Thank you for having me.
Pleasure. So firstly, you're not only a successful journalist, but a huge advocate for sport, and in particular netball. I think you've now been playing in London for 9 years, is that right?
That is right, yeah. I'm a massive netball nerd. I've been playing in London for 9 years, but basically since I was old enough to run around, I've been playing netball, so since primary school. So it's always been a huge part of my life. And yeah, when I moved to London about 9 years ago, it was kind of one of the first things that I sorted out. I was like, right, I've moved to this new city. The first thing to do is find a team, because it's just like an instant set of friends and an instant kind of familiarity. And it's just that kind of routine. It's just something I always do. And yeah, it's just a huge part of my life and has added so much to my life in terms of, you know, my health and my fitness and my well-being, but also I think my, like, I don't know, the ability to work in a team. And I think that's, you know, really helped professionally and just with my personal development as well. So yeah, I can't sing the praises of netball enough. Basically, you're gonna have to stop me because I will.
No, I'm happy to talk about it. I play netball as well, so I can understand.
Brilliant.
So currently in the UK, there are 2 million fewer women playing regular sport per week than men. And it's been reported that Black and Asian women are a group that are least likely to hit their recommended fitness allowance. And I'm sure there are kind of a myriad of reasons for this, but for a lot of women, even the word sport carries a lot of baggage, whether that be down to negative experiences in a sporting environment or feeling deterred by the stigma of competitive activity. Lots of people don't really consider themselves the sporty type. And I was wondering what your advice to these women would be.
Yeah, it's so interesting when you say that about how people think of themselves in types. And I think it's like you say, I think a lot of people hold on to baggage of negative experiences with sport from a very young age and then take that with them. And from what I've seen, there's always a huge drop off at certain points in a woman's life when it comes to sport and just physical activity in general. So, you know, it's kind of in your mid-teenage years at school, suddenly it's not cool to play sport anymore. You don't necessarily want to get changed. You don't want to get sweaty in front of the boys. Suddenly your priorities kind of change. And then again, when you leave school, there's another drop off. And then again, once people leave university, there's another drop off. And then another one, I think, which I'm starting to see now, as I'm in my early 30s, and a lot of my teammates are getting to that late 20s, 30s stages when people start to have children. And there's a lot of women on my netball team and in my club who've had kids and, you know, either struggled to get back or not come back at all, or it's taken them a really long time and it's been really difficult. And I think there's, like you say, there is a myriad of reasons why it's difficult for women to get into sport and to then maintain that participation throughout their lives. And I think that's really hard, and I wouldn't want to put that onus all on women at all, because I think the system is very much built against us. We are not, it's not a natural expected thing for women to do in our lives. We're not pushed into that necessarily. There's no kind of expectation that is something that's going to be beneficial or good for us or something that we should necessarily be doing. But like you say, there is that sense of a lack of confidence and feeling like you're not the sporty type. And I think if that is what's holding you back, and you do have the time and the accessibility and, you know, the ability to access these kind of spaces, I think for me it's just a case of finding the thing that really works for you, not just doing something, you know, for the wrong reasons. I think for me, my ability to stay active throughout my life so far has been very much about finding the right motivations. I think a lot about my friends who go to the gym and go running solely to, like, maintain their weight, or to, you know, so
Yeah,
that they
yeah.
don't put on weight. That's always the focus for a lot of women, and for me that doesn't have the longevity that I would need. I would really struggle if that was my only motivation. So I think it's about finding something that brings you that next level of enjoyment and fulfillment. And for me, that's team sports, that's netball, that's winning. I love winning. I'm very competitive.
Yeah.
If you love dancing, if you love being active, I think it's about finding the thing that gives you joy in your body for the sake of moving itself, not for the sake of, I have to do this. It's a punishment for eating something, or thinking,
Yeah.
you know, specifically about the way you look. I think you have to find that motivation that really drives you, that's going to get you up
Yeah.
at
Yeah.
7 o'clock in winter. It's going to get you to put your trainers on after work when you really just want to go and sit on the sofa. Like, it's hard.
Yeah.
It's not easy to find that thing, but once you do and you make it a routine, it just becomes part of your life. So that
Yeah,
would be
and I
my
think
advice.
it can become a kind of joy in the sense that you don't realize that that's going to be such a kind of enjoyable thing until you found the kind of right thing, I guess. So yeah, it's definitely
100%.
worth exploring.
Yeah, definitely. And also, just in terms of that, like, the mindfulness it gives you, it's such an escape once you find the right thing. I think we all complain that we're so busy and we're so stressed, and that is definitely true. We are definitely all being pushed way too far. But I think making that fitness thing a priority and finding a way to build that into your routine can provide such an amazing escape from that, because
Yeah.
when you're doing your sport or your fitness, you literally don't have the space to be thinking about your emails or what your boss said or what you've got to make for dinner or when you're going to do the washing. Like, you literally have to just think about moving your body and
There and
breathing and
then.
being present. So that's
Yeah.
really rare, I think.
Yeah, yeah. And it's a joy when you find it. I completely agree. So it's promising to hear that 13 million women have been reported saying that they would like to do more physical activity, but also frustrating to hear that they are not sure about how to incorporate it into their daily lives, like we've been talking about. And this is what Pulse's She Gets Social campaign has been motivated by, helping women from disadvantaged backgrounds finding ways to integrate sport into their daily lives. And I was just wondering what you think about in terms of accessibility, in terms of kind of metropolitan areas like London, what needs to be done in terms of access to kind of sports facilities and open spaces where, you know, it's very limited sometimes.
Yeah, I think this is a huge problem. There's so many barriers when it comes to accessibility, and I think a lot of them are really unnecessary, particularly in metropolitan areas. I think the key problem is the cost. A lot of these spaces are so expensive to hire, like sports halls, pitches, courts, outdoor spaces. They're ludicrously expensive to hire, and if you're not in that kind of team or club setup where those costs are being kind of fielded and you know, organized, it can be impossible for a smaller group to get those funds together. And then also, it's just hard to actually book the time in because they're so in demand, like they're just oversubscribed. So there isn't enough space, and the space that is there is too expensive. So I think there needs to be a way of bringing that cost down, whether that's providing off-peak sessions for people at different times during the day, and I think that could be helpful for women who are mothers as well, who can maybe do some sport at like 2 p.m. as opposed to 5 p.m. when they've got to be at home and, you know, looking after the kids or whatever. So I think it's about having that flexibility in when these spaces are available, and also subsidizing the costs. And I think that should come from, you know, local councils and from government, and that should be there should be funding in place to make community sporting spaces much more affordable for all kinds of people. I also think there just needs to be more thought gone into the facilities. I've had conversations in the past about mothers, again, like, you know, young mums, or sorry, mums of like new mums of young babies who are wanting to get back into sport, and they go to these sports halls and there's no changing facilities, or they can't access the toilets, and there's nowhere for them to breastfeed if that's what they're doing, or pump their milk. And it's these really small things that can make a huge difference to so many women, and that just isn't thought about because these sporting spaces aren't built for us. They're built with male athletes in mind, and as a result, these really small things, like just having a toilet that has a changing table.
Yeah.
That can make a huge difference, and make these spaces welcoming for women, because what kind of message does it send to new mothers who might be feeling nervous anyway, stepping back into this world, to get to a space and realize, oh, actually my needs aren't being catered for here. That says to them that you don't belong here, you're not necessarily wanted here. And it's these really small, that messaging that can put women off for a really long time. So I think it's about making small changes to the facilities that are available, making the times that they're available much more flexible, but at the heart of it is reducing the cost, because I think the financial barrier is the biggest one. People don't have disposable income to go and do sport, and it makes it feel like it's a luxury when it shouldn't be. It should be just a fundamental part of what we do, and it should be a right, really. And in order to do that, it has to be a price point that everyone can access.
Yeah, because also I was thinking, I read your piece on F45 in Brixton. Was it in Brixton? Yeah. So places like that, I think it's so important. Like you said, it's not a luxury. It should be kind of something that everyone needs to have access to, and it's so crucial for people, especially now, to be able to go and kind of work out in the gym and make yourself feel a bit less kind of claustrophobic after obviously 100%. Quite extensive periods of lockdown. But yeah, no, that's super interesting in terms of kind of timings as well. I hadn't really thought about that. So working in journalism, I'm sure you spent lots of time thinking about social media and the power it holds, both good and bad. But social media kind of often paints a picture of the super fit woman kind of hardly breaking a sweat after quite a long workout, which I'm sure can act, and does to me, it acts as a deterrent to those who don't see themselves as kind of capable of that kind of level of fitness. And so do you think that kind of social media can be a force for good, encouraging people to get active? And how often do you kind of use social media? Do you use it for identifying new stories and stuff like that?
Oh God, I use social media way too much. I wish I could use it less. It's like I spend my whole life on it. It's for work, it's impossible to not be on it. I get jealous of my friends who don't work in the media, who are like, oh, what's Twitter? What's trending on Twitter? And I'm like, oh, I wish I didn't know everything that's trending on Twitter. But no, I use it a lot. It's a big part of my job. It's a good place to kind of identify what people are talking about, what the big stories are, finding a lot of case studies. Like I reach out to people a lot on Twitter who have been, tweeting their experiences about sport, about race issues, about things that have happened to them in the workplace, their personal stories. So it is a good place to engage in those conversations. And although it can be exhausting when you spend as much time on it as I do, I think overall, I think it can definitely be a force for good, and a place of support and inspiration, and a place of recognition where you see other people talking about the same things as you are, going through the same things as you are, particularly at the moment with COVID and lockdowns, endless lockdowns. It has been a place to find those connections and stay still feel like you're in a hub of other people. Exactly. But I think you just have to be smart about how you use it, and not allow yourself to get sucked in. And I don't know, just monitoring your screen time, all those simple things that everyone recommends, and hardly anyone actually does. But if you can try and give yourself some limits on it, it's up to the actual creators of social media too, to their whole point of it is to make it addictive and to draw you in. So it's not completely on us to change our habits, but I think we do have the power to make it a positive space. But like you say, in terms of the sports and fitness stuff, I think it can be really problematic in terms of Instagram, Gymstagram, people posing in their perfect full sweaty Betty Lululemon kit, and I think it really does propagate these ideas of this unattainable body image. And I think it's funny because I think we've seen a shift recently in the last maybe 5 to 7 years. It's kind of gone from a positive spin on, oh, we're not trying to be skinny anymore, we're trying to be strong. And that was seen as a positive thing, like, oh, you know, women are trying to get strong. And I think in a way that is a better message than just trying to be slimmer all the time, and that was the whole focus. But I think it's almost the flip side of the same coin now that it's become this, because these bodies that these women are showing on Instagram, and men as well, they're still unattainable, even if they are more focused on building muscle and toning, rather than just getting smaller. I think it's still a focus on the aesthetics and the body, which I don't think should be the be all and end all when it comes to physical activity at all. And it is just very unattainable for a lot of people to build that level of muscles and the six packs and the, you know, the rock solid thighs and all of these things that people are now showing as like the ultimate goal for fitness Instagram. So I think it's really important to keep an eye on who you're following on socials and why you're following them. So I follow a lot of these gym Instagram accounts because I like to get inspiration for things to do, particularly at the moment when I'm doing workouts like in my living room. I go on Instagram and someone's doing like a 5-move HIIT session, and I swipe through and I try and I do them myself, and I like that. But sometimes I'm scrolling and I just see image after image of women who have exactly the same bodies, wearing exactly the same gym kit, and I'm just like, that is, I don't know, that could really get in your head and make you feel really inadequate and make you feel like you're never going to get there. And like you said, it can deter people. Like they're supposed to be inspirational accounts, but if you see too many women who look like this one perfect figure, I can imagine that you'd just be like, well, there's no point trying because I'm never going to look like that. So I think it is about varying who you're following. There's a lot of really good accounts out there. I follow Alice Living, who's an amazing gym Instagram influencer. She's brilliant, has really positive messaging, and has, you know, really honest and open about her failures and how her mindset has changed over the years. Also, Natalie is a really good Instagram influencer as well. So yeah, I think it's just about curating your own feed to make sure it's not too much of the same thing.
Because it's so difficult, isn't it, trying to kind of monitor it when it takes one click to follow someone and then you forget, and then you kind of don't consciously remember who you've chosen to follow, and kind of
absolutely
all of that. It is quite difficult to manage, but I agree, it's kind of, it can sometimes send this kind of uniform image to everyone, which is completely idealistic and obviously not very realistic.
So true.
But yeah, no, definitely kind of varying the feed, definitely one to do. And also I loved reading your piece in the Metro very recently about the kind of physiological and mental benefits of dancing and clubbing.
Oh yeah.
It was a great piece, and it made me kind of think about how there is a huge range of physical activities with all sorts of kind of physical and mental benefits in terms of health, not just the activities which people consider to be traditional sports. And I was wondering whether you think that kind of modernising our perception of what sport is might be a helpful way to encourage more women to get active.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. And I think that again ties back to what you said before about people having this baggage from like PE essentially in school, where you're taught, okay, you have hockey, you have netball. That was basically all we had. I went to a like very traditional girls' school, and it was very old school. And that we didn't, you know, there was hardly anything that we could do. And if you didn't like those basically 2 or 3 sports that they offered, that was kind of it. It's like, okay, you're not sporty then, that's it. And again, that it comes down to that accessibility of not being able to try different things, because you know, not every kid has the privilege of being able to try out 10 different kind of sports classes until they find something that suits them. So yeah, I think it's definitely important to modernize how we think about sport and physical activity generally. Like, even the fact that you don't have to be in a gym on a running machine or lifting weights in order to be getting physically active every day. And I think that would be really helpful specifically for women and who need more flexibility in how they can access sport and physical activity as well. Um, like you say, dancing in clubs, walking, carrying the shopping home, walking up the stairs to your flat a couple of times a day. Like, these are all things that will massively contribute to your overall health, and that can be, slotted into your everyday without really making any adjustments. And I think that's almost like a really nice way in to being active, that wouldn't feel scary or intimidating. It's not, you have to go and walk into a gym on your own. You don't have to come and join a team and make a load of new friends. Like, you can literally just find ways of making your routine more active. So, and I think that's something that everyone's been doing in lockdown a little bit. For example, we've been trying to cut down on how much public transport we're taking. So you might have normally got the bus to the tube station, but instead you're going to walk there. It might be 20 minutes. That's a good way of doing it. I've started this new thing because in lockdown and working from home, I've realized my step count is just dropped off a cliff. I was just like, I'm not moving at all. Like, I'll go to bed and it's like, you've moved 17 steps today, and you're like, oh god. So I spoke to my friend about it, and she said that she goes out for a walk every lunchtime, just literally around the block, and gets her heart rate up by like walking up a few hills. So she feels like she's done a bit without having to like put her kit on or anything. And she says that every time, it's so silly, but every time she needs the loo during the day, she will, because she lives on like the second floor of her flat, she has to go downstairs and back up twice every time she goes to the loo, just so that and then she's like getting closer to her step count just by making these like little adjustments. So there's definitely like benefits in finding different ways to be active, and I think all of that only helps with the accessibility issues and making fitness something that is for everyone.
And also, kind of, especially when it's getting dark so early now, it's definitely something that I've struggled with, is kind of motivating myself to get up and out when I finish the day when it's completely dark. And it's kind of that thing of trying to go for a walk at lunchtime, or even just if it's like a 5-minute walk. I honestly think that makes such a difference to how you feel for the rest of the afternoon. So it's definitely something we all should try and kind of allow ourselves to do and make time for. And and then your netball show, your podcast, which launched in 2017, which has almost 300 episodes, I think, and a real treasure trove for all netball fans out there. You host interviews with a variety of successful players and coaches and other figures in the netball world. And I was just wondering where the idea came from.
Well, I can't really take credit for the idea, to be honest. The inception of the netball show was Andy Lamb. He's the creator of the podcast, and I think it just came from the fact that as netballers, we're so starved of media that's about our sport. Like, we don't get much about it. Like, it's so rarely on TV, it's so rarely in the media. I think particularly in 2017 when we started it, I think we've made a few jumps in the last few years, and helps that we won at the Commonwealth Games, which was epic. I'll never get old talking about that. So that's really helped to increase the profile of the sport. But I think back in 2017 when we started it, no one was talking about netball. Nobody knew what it was. Everyone still had these old preconceived ideas of it as this girly game, this like schoolgirl game that's slow paced, and you can't run with the ball, so it's not very athletic. And it couldn't be further from the truth of this incredibly physical, lightning paced elite sport. And I think it was basically born out of frustration of people not knowing about netball and wanting people to know how awesome it is as a spectator sport and for players, and then also just out of a desire to boost it. Like, so before my first job in journalism was the editor of England Netball magazine. So I did that for a few years, which is like the nerdiest netball job you could probably have, and I loved it. It was amazing. But I got to know loads of the players doing that job, and I just thought these players should be household names. Like, people should know them. They are training as hard as any other elite athlete in the game. They are incredible. We are world beaters in netball, which is something that England doesn't really get to say about many sports. Like, we will consistently make the podium. We are one of the best in the world at netball. And we should be celebrating that as a nation. We should be behind this team. Everyone should know about it. In Australia and New Zealand, it's huge. They have billboards on the side of the road with netball players on, and the players, it's a professional league out there. The players are properly paid. They don't have to have second jobs. Over here, our England stars are also teachers and doctors and scientists and parents, and they have to juggle all of these responsibilities. So the fact that they're doing that while still winning gold medals is just like astounding. Imagine what they could do if they were given the funding and the support and the sponsorship that male athletes are given. So it was basically our very small attempt of trying to boost the profile of netball, get it into the public eye, get people excited about it, get people watching the Super League, watching England's international games. And yeah, we've been really happy with the response. We love doing it. It's myself, Zara Buck, Sasha Shipway, and Andy Lamb, and it's a passion project. We don't make any money off this podcast. We just literally do it for the joy of netball, and yeah, to bring the netball fans some much needed chat, because we don't get many forums to talk about it. So that's
it's so nice, and also kind of allowing people kind of an insider into these athletes as people as well, making them relatable, which will also encourage people who aren't playing netball or have looked at it from a distance for a while to kind of get out and go and play it. So I think it's really important to hear people talk about it and be passionate about it, because it's very infectious. So sport not only has amazing benefits for your health, but also the power to unite people and build lasting relationships, which is something the She Gets Social campaign at Pulse hopes to get across with the tagline of helping women to get social through sport. Is this something you found from personal experience? I think it sounds like it would have been. And it's really important, to kind of for people to see the benefits of getting active and not just being fit, but interacting with others. And I was wondering if you wanted to kind of talk about that aspect of it a little bit.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, netball has been one of the biggest kind of sources of my friendships over the years since school, as I mentioned. When I think about my university experience, I don't really remember like my lectures and my seminars, but I remember training. I remember our netball socials. Literally all I think about when I think about my 3 years at Sheffield University is the netball club and all of my experiences with them. And some of my best friends now are people who I've known for years and years through netball. And like I said, when I first moved to London, that was the first thing I did. And you have an instant set of friends. And I think netball sometimes gets a bit of a bad rap because it's a women's sport. I think there's this kind of like old misogynistic kind of idea that it's quote unquote bitchy, and that it's going to be a bit cliquey and a bit hard to get into, and that's just, I've never found that. And I've played for many different teams in different cities all over the UK for the last 20 odd years, and I've only ever found welcome and support and like-minded women who just love running around and love winning. So it's been a hugely positive and social thing in my life, and I'm massively grateful for the friendships that I found through netball. And I think that's such an important thing as well for women to generally get involved in sport, and I think that's something again that isn't reflected when we think about sport and physical activity only in terms of like our bodies and having to look a certain way. You're kind of ignoring this huge part of it that is the sociability of it, that getting out there and meeting people and just having those natural interactions. Because I also think as we get older, all of us, finding new connections and maintaining our old connections only gets harder. Our responsibilities with our own families just seem to grow, and our careers, and we can all become quite insular, and I don't know, you just don't have as many friendships as you did when you were younger. And I think sport and any kind of physical activity is a really good way to keep that going and to forge new relationships, even as you get older, even as you have your own family, even as you progress in your career. This is a separate little world that you can have that's just yours, where you don't have to be somebody's wife, you don't have to be anybody's mother, all of those responsibilities fall away, and this is a thing where you're just you, and you're known in terms of the sport you do and the talent that you have and what you bring to your team, or what you bring to the gym class that you're going to. And I think that's like gloriously freeing and really empowering for women, because I think women are so often defined by other people, by their relationships to other people, and the responsibilities they have to fulfill. And I think that only increases as you get older. And for me, sport has always been a release from that. I don't have to be anything other than myself when I'm on the netball court, and I think that's something that every woman deserves to have. So yeah, go join a netball team is what I'm saying. To sum up, join a netball team.
No, but it's true. It's kind of that thing of not kind of, and also meeting new people. It kind of challenges you in a way that you can't just revert to being the person that you are used to being, and it kind of meeting new people, especially now, is also quite difficult. So after lockdown, I can imagine that everyone's going to be craving that kind of new contact with different people.
Definitely, yeah.
Yeah. So London, one last thing, I'm aware that I've taken up quite a lot of your time, but London Sports Active Conference showed that lockdown has exacerbated existing inequalities in terms of activity levels across London. And obviously we've all had to readjust to national restrictions. And I was just wondering how you've coped personally, and how you're staying active. I know you mentioned doing kind of workouts at home, but I was just hoping to get some advice for people.
Yeah, it's been very up and down, I think. So my netball team have been great. We've been doing Zoom workouts. So on Saturday mornings, one of our keenest team member has been taking the lead, and it's just like, right, I'm doing some HIIT sessions on a Saturday morning. And it's good because it keeps that routine, because normally on Saturday mornings we get up at the crack of dawn, put our kit on and go out in the cold, and that's what we do. So we've all felt a bit lost not having that routine for such a long time. Like, I've never had a break this long from playing competitive netball since I was about 8 years old. So I think we were all struggling with that. So that's been really nice. And we've been doing that once or twice a week, which has been great. And, as well as doing the fitness and the workout, we're also chatting and we're catching up, because I miss these girls. Like, I see them more than my friends. I see them more than my family. Like, I see them twice a week. Like, I don't get to see my friends that often. So it's been nice to just have that natural contact with them and keep that going. Also, we push each other harder. So when I'm just doing a workout on my own, I'm like, I'll try to push myself, but then I'm like, oh, but my sofa's just there, and I could just put some Netflix on, and I don't push myself in the same way. Whereas if someone is on Zoom being like, do another set, then I will do another set. So it makes it harder, which is nice. At the beginning of lockdown, I had a flirtation with running that did not last long.
As did we all, I think.
Yeah, I downloaded Strava like everyone, and was like trying to be a runner, which has never been what I want to do, and is still not what I want to do. So that confirms that I am not a runner, but I tried it. So I think everyone has been trying different things, which has been really nice, and it has been good to try new things. For me personally, HIIT sessions in my living room have been what I've been doing, using social media to find different sessions, working out with my boyfriend, pushing each other, I think the key thing for me, what really helps, is finding a routine, getting outside, even now that it's getting dark and cold, forcing myself to go outside, because there's something half-hearted about being in my living room, and it's too easy to stop. If I've gone outside and I've put my trainers on, then I will work harder, and I will and I'll do it. I'm going to be like, right, I've come outside now, I may as well do this. Whereas if I'm in my living room, I'm lying on the rug with my phone. I'm like, oh, I'm not doing it. And it's too easy to give up. So that would be my key advice, is to find some connections, do stuff on Zoom where you can, find a partner, get outside and have a routine, and try and stick to it as much as you can, because you will always feel better if you do it, like always, particularly in lockdown. Because on days when I don't get outside or don't move, I just feel so low and like just a bit gross. I'm just like, oh yeah, exactly. Like if you don't move, you're just sitting in your house, you're working from home, you're not seeing your friends. This is an excuse to get out. So yeah, that would be my key advice.
Oh, well, great. Thank you. I will let you go, but it's been so lovely talking to you. Thank you for, again, for spending the time to chat to me. And I hope that you get to go and see your netball gang soon, which I'm sure you will, with lockdown coming to an end.
But we have plans for the weekend to play a game.
Good.